Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Park and Recreation Committee meeting, March 21st. First order of business is a call to order and roll call. We'll just go down the line if you introduce yourself that you're here.
Brian Vincent.
Judy Iverson.
Larry Schultz.
Mary Larson.
Claudio Groppetti.
Jeanette June.
Okay, thank you. We need to approve the minutes from the prior regular meeting, which was held on February 24th. Everybody have a chance to review those? I did note one typo. I think it said there was each acre of park development was $125. And I think that was supposed to be $125,000, so.
We will make that change.
Okay. All right, somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes with that correction?
So approve.
Okay, so motion by Judy, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Brian, any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes with the correction, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. New business. I skipped over the old business. How could I skip over the biggest thing on the agenda?
And you skipped over 4 too. If
Okay.
anything there.
All right.
You really want the meeting to go fast.
Yeah. We'll go in chronological order here. So we'll go to 4. Any petitions, proclamations, suggestions, complaints from anyone?
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
This has to do with the, since I wasn't at the meeting last month, and the equipment replacement at the rec center. I'm not sure what the process is for getting input from the trainers, the personal trainers that are using the equipment, but I had asked my personal trainer if there was input from her regarding the equipment, and she had said there wasn't. And so I'd like to suggest that we get input from the personal trainers who are using that equipment at the rec center when we do replacement of that equipment, because they're using that on a regular basis. And they would know what's being used. So I don't know if that has been done in the past or not, but I'd like to suggest getting some feedback from the trainers who are using that equipment.
And yeah, I certainly can do that more formally. I tend to do it informally with them, but certainly we can look at that down the line.
Okay. Thanks, Mary. Any other comments, questions, suggestions, complaints? Okay. We'll go from 4 to 5, which is old business. This is a carryover from our discussion last month regarding the trail gap evaluation and ranking. So I will turn it over to Ann to kick this off.
Thank you. Good evening, committee members. And this item, it has been ongoing for many, many years. And we have ranked and selected criteria and received some information on costs associated with some of these. And it's something that we're going to continue to revisit, certainly based on what happens in the field, and also what happens with opportunities that may present themselves. So this evening, I wanted to just touch base again with the committee, because we did have a request from the Auburn neighborhood for a trail along 5 out to Auburn, and we spent some time at the last meeting ranking. So there are probably those will continue to come up, but we also looked at the estimate for the County Road 43 trail from 11 out to Watermark that came in at $2.2 million, which was a fairly high level estimate. Prices have gone up. This section of road, again, is a real challenge with light poles in the way, likely retaining wall, also wetland crossing. So again, we had an opportunity to kind of go through that and talk about the plan associated with that. So I just want to kind of go through the next upcoming trails that we do have planned within the budget. If you'll recall, the Highway 5 crossing, which is under underpass at Madeline Creek, ended up being ranked number 6, but we have an opportunity to get federal funding as part of the Highway 5 road project, which would cover half of the cost for that. So based on that, we have included that in our long-term capital plan. And if all goes well, that would be a 2025 project. And then the 2B was the Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail, which is from Kirklocken out to Lake Bridge, and that is scheduled out to start in 2026. And that ends up just being the property acquisition along that gap. So those are where we're kind of plugged in as far as the CIP, and that is based on the existing funding that we have today. That's something that we need to, at least recognize the importance of that, because these projects are paid for by cash, generally speaking, unless we're able to get grants or some other funding in the future. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on those, and we'll stop there with the next priorities and have that discussion.
Just on the Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail, I'm looking at this spreadsheet. And then you mentioned that was Kirklocken to Lake Bridge. There seems to be two items. Like item number 7 says Kirklocken to Lake Bridge, and then 43 to 11, that one, and then there's Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail. Is that a duplicate?
One is the one is paving the road from where the road that goes to the boat landing to Rolling Acres.
Right. So that's not a duplicate, no.
So, okay, so two, and this showed Kirklocken to Lake Bridge as 2B,
Right.
but you're
Right.
showing this Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail is now 2B?
It is, it always has been 2B. 2A was the County Road 43 trail, and then 2B was the Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail from Kirklocken to Lake Bridge.
I'm slow. So I'm just looking here, and then here, and then same here.
So this is the paving of the Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail from the extension from downtown out to Rolling Acres Road. So this is 2B, that's your LRT right there. Make sense?
Oh, that's LRT. But you're showing 2B here as LMRT.
Same thing.
Yeah, Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail.
So Kirklocken Lake Bridge is not 2B.
It is.
To be or not to be?
Yes.
It is.
It is. It's just named differently. My apologies. So yes, 2B is the Kirklocken on the Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail extendo.
Oh, so there should only be one, no, there's 2 segments of that?
Of the Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail, yes. One section there, one section this way. One east, one west.
Okay. Go ahead, Ann.
So I wanted just to bring back the group based all the criteria that we had agreed on to when we started ranking these trails back in 2019. Those were 6 different criteria: the connection opportunity, what does the trail link to, whether that's a local, state, or regional facility. Public support, is there public support at all levels for a trail like this? The environmental sensitivity, which is what does the trail impact have on wetlands, significant trees. Engineering difficulty was the factors that make the trail difficult to build, which would be storm sewer, retaining wall, private property, or other public property that doesn't belong to the city. The local neighborhood impact was how many residents does the trail serve? And then the cost was what is the combined impact of the environmental and engineering on the trail. So I think you've seen many of these in play and at work. So I think if the group, I'd like to have that conversation of, is there something else that we should be looking at, or are you guys comfortable with those criteria that were developed that we use to rank the trails?
Any other suggestions for?
I have one question, and it pairs well with this wonderful map right in front of me here. So thinking about this after watching the replay of last month's meeting. So the Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail, if we connect it from downtown, Kirklocken to Lake Bridge, does it go indefinitely? Is there past Lake Bridge?
No, it would stop there.
Dead ends there. Okay.
Yeah, so we have trail from just on this side of Lake Bridge that extends out to Lake Bridge.
Could there be, is there any structure there, or, is there anything past Lake Bridge today, or does it
Yes.
physically end there?
It physically ends.
Right.
And the Lake Bridge, where the Lake Bridge, I'll say property line ends, that's the end of Victoria today.
Yes, right. Correct.
So, but there will be eventually, the plan is to continue on with that.
Is there rail bed there?
Yes.
It goes west?
Yes.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions on criteria?
Not having, I benefit from the fact that you guys did all the heavy lifting on the first pass. But when I just looked at these, and I kind of grouped them into a couple of categories, and and it was all about people as one, and then the other was all about cost. And it seemed as though the connection opportunity, the public support, local connection impact, those seem to be all the human types of things, just saying, hey, we want trails. And when we looked at environmental sensitivity and engineering difficulty, I question, they're really important, but my sense is that both of those really are reflected in cost. Because if it's really environmentally sensitive and we're still going to do it, there's going to probably be a higher cost associated with protecting that. So almost, my sense is that there's almost 2 buckets. I thought those might have been a little overly weighted. But that's just my sense. Not that we need to change it, but it was just.
Because it's reflected in the high costs.
Yeah.
I think when we initially did it, I don't think we included cost. I think that's how those ended up on there.
Okay.
And then we added cost at the end, and we did it that way so we wouldn't end up ruling out something that made the most sense as a connection solely on cost, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So now they're all incorporated in one, and I guess the other thing too, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think at least a couple of you were, in part of that discussion. The other piece of that is that this was not an absolute, it was kind of a guideline. It was just to help separate maybe some of the really low ones, and kind of more group them, and then I think what we finally ended up with maybe I don't know if they ended up, with the highest score being 1, and the next one 2, and that. I think we kind of lumped them into okay, here are the top 4 out of those. Then we had a further discussion. Okay, out of those 4, what really makes the most sense.
It makes sense now that you said that cost was added after.
The emotional versus the practical.
Yeah.
Right.
I would never.
Everybody would love to do it a certain way, but, again, as Ann's pointed out, some of the engineering that we sit here and say, well, that'd be just really nice, but
Only that
holy
long,
cow,
too,
how would you ever get that done? So
I think the other thing with the engineering piece on there too is understanding that not only eventually would it cost more, but it would also take a lot longer to do because of the complexities.
Gotcha.
But okay, other questions on the criteria itself? Was there anything else that we should be including? Okay, go ahead, Ann.
Yep. So the second conversation, I guess, is the cost for trail construction. These trails are, gaps are very, very expensive, and so based on what we have done over the past couple of years, this will definitely, they will have an impact on the trail gap budget that we do have, and is there any way to, or thoughts on how to, make this work better? Is there a different method, different program or process that you would like to see that might impact or improve, this period of time which we're going to be dealing with them? And if anyone has thoughts on that.
I wonder if when we rank them, if we almost have 2 rankings. One is if money wasn't an object, how we would rank them, and then with money as an object, rank them. Because I think if there's which I think based on last time this was done, and it may change, it may not, but let's say it doesn't change dramatically, the ones that were ranked the highest were the most expensive. And if we only have X number of dollars, and I know you're going to talk about that in the next point there, but if we only have so much, I think we need to send a message to communicate with the city council and just say, if our intention as a community is to link all these trails, it's going to cost some money. So if we aren't willing to spend that kind of money, that kind of changes how we look at this, because then maybe we need to do some smaller things. Or we have to come to the realization that if we're going to do a big one, maybe we'll do one big one every 10 years, and that's it. But we can't have an expectation that we're going to do 3 or 4 of these and I think everybody needs to understand that, and get direction also from the council as to what their appetite is for spending money on trails. And I know another survey is coming out, but the last survey had trail connections as a #1 priority. So if it's still the #1 priority, then maybe some more dollars need to be allocated to that process. If not, then which is fine. I think the council has done a good job, and staff of, at least putting monies aside each year for the trail, and I think that's going up each year. So that's very helpful. But again, it's not going to get a lot of the gaps done in a short period of time, and maybe that's okay too. But just so there's an understanding of that. So anyway, my suggestion was maybe come up with 2 lists. One is if money wasn't an object, which ones would we do? And then if money is an object, which ones make sense with the budget dollars that we currently have? Any other suggestions as to how we might address the cost or answer Ann's question?
What I'm questioning or wondering about is, right now, there's like, how much money's in the trail budget right now? I mean, 100,000 goes in there each year, is that correct?
It goes up annually,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think it's 150 or 175 this year, but I believe that we had about almost 900,000
Okay.
at the end of this year.
So, which leads me to my question is, like, right now, 2A, County Road 43 is scheduled for 2024, but it costs 2.2 million. Where does the rest of that money come from? Because obviously our budget helps, but, you know, allocating that, but it's never going to get us where we need to go
Right.
at all. So,
That's a challenge.
so who makes up the difference, or where does that come from?
I would have to work on some grants. The council may have to, if that's an important piece to them, they would have to add additional funding in to cover that. You know, there's opportunities to, let's just say, borrow against a fund and then repay it back over time. So those are kind of the options that you've got available.
Yeah.
What was Bavaria East budgeted for, roughly?
The total budget project cost was about 1.3.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And the plan was to do it over a 2-year period of time. And we also had money for grants. So we were gonna try to split it up. So, or do it all in 1 year and then borrow that and repay the fund back the following year,
The grant was how much?
150,000.
Which is now totally gone away, correct?
Yes,
Done, gone away, bye-bye.
yes. Not saying that we couldn't submit again, but
Yeah.
there are, there are certain criteria that the DNR has for ranking those final budgets or ranking those final grants. On that this one played in quite well because it linked to regional trails. So, certainly there's an opportunity to do it on the 43, but
I think the other thing with cost too, that everybody should be aware of, and probably is that these costs are today's dollars. And, 5 years from now, it may be another several 100,000. So another decision that probably the council needs to make at some point in time is if these trail connections are something that we truly believe in and we want to do as a community, maybe thought needs to go into looking at, do you bond for this and then, get it done and then you're paying some finance cost on that, but interest rates aren't going to be any lower than they are today for a while probably. Either that or know that it's going to take forever to get these done and it's going to cost a whole lot more as well.
When I had looked at, I put my little map together, and when you talk about how to segregate, a couple of things jumped out at me. One, where the population densities were in the city, and then where the edge of development occurred versus being landlocked with no development in the future. And the thought I had is, if you're right on the edge of development, the probability of having something built in the future and may incorporate trails at that time versus trying to spend it today when there's unincorporated property adjacent to where the trail is.
So in other words, take advantage of the developers like we are on Cochia, where those two plots came up, which actually creates a wonderful connection of trails that when we did this last time, there was no indication that that was going to be developed anytime soon. The school still owned the property, and all of a sudden that came up for sale, and boom, we have two developments there. So that's another way to help with the, as you are suggesting, help with the cost if developers help with those trails too.
I mean, I'm just going to throw this out. I mean, just looking at this map, thank you so much for the big, large map. That really helps me look at the whole picture. And looking at some of these, like 12, number 12, which is 43 to Tellers, hopefully that there will be, as the economic development or whatever comes, that there may be opportunity for a trail being put in as that develops. So I kind of eliminated 12. Then I looked at, ones I looked at was, I'm thinking of traffic and where people are. So I was really looking at number 11, which is Victoria Drive, I think. County Road 11 South. There's so much traffic, automobile traffic in there. So I'm looking at that one going, and I don't remember how much, the cost on that one on 11?
We don't have one. I think that we have a really rough budget number on that one, because that's priority 3. And that we have right now estimated at 950, but based on things that are happening, that number is not correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because Lake Bridge was like 1.2 or 1.3 in the last guesstimate that you.
Another.
And then the other thing I looked at, and I'm picking up on kind of what I thought you were hinting at last time, Larry, was Bavaria East was pretty much killed because of the, when the grant and the right-of-way and stuff, mainly because of one business. But I think you had mentioned it, Larry, that, well, you still could do part of it. And I'm kind of going, and that's another heavily trafficked, when you look at the big map, a lot of homes over in there already, that you could take it, if you took it all the way up to the Arboretum land, because I think the Arboretum was okay with that. You took it all the way up to there and then waited until 5 comes through, and then they would develop that whole upper corner anyway, that last little piece from Hartman up. So I haven't so I was looking at 11, 3, and 7. Those 3, I wondered if we did, the reason I'm looking not at 8, because I don't know if there's going to be any development in there. Is there any potential development in there? Because I know that's really difficult, and that one's more expensive.
Which one's that? Is that Church Lake?
Yeah, that's the Church Lake. Yeah. That was like 2.2, and I know there were all kinds of concerns.
There is some potential for development.
Yeah.
It won't complete the entire section, but there is opportunity for a couple different parcels.
So I was just thinking, let's just give the city the whole thing. Let's just do 11, 3 up to the Arboretum, and 7. If we totaled those costs and said, let's go for it. Let's do it. We know, looking at the big map, how many people, the number 3, which is Bavaria, number 11, which is Victoria, has got a lot of traffic. People complain about that a lot, about this car speeding by. And I think 7 out to Lake Bridge is not too difficult because it's a railroad bed, or piece of it is.
Yeah, acquisition of private property is the.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to.
Otherwise, it might have all gravel probably would have been done. I mean, because.
So, I mean, that's just one idea. I said we're piecemealing it, and we keep trying to piecemeal it, and I keep saying, if we want to get this done, here's these 3. Because number 10 is, going from west to the city, and that's kind of in the future. I think 12, which is down in that lower southwest corner, is gonna be future development. So I thought, let's just look at a bigger piece. And the ones up in the northwest corner, like 1 and 2, hopefully they make, there's something, I forgot about that, future development or something. It's gonna come with number 1 and 2. Rolling Acres.
Rolling Acres would be the reconstruction of the road.
Yeah, yeah. I knew there was some reason why that we.
And that, yeah, that just hasn't been, timeline has not been determined yet, but that would be the opportunity to do that one.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just looking at the bigger map and really seeing how many people it impacts and traffic and the bigger connections and why not some of the others.
So I like the idea of putting the kind of the dream list together, and also the ones that, you know, make the most sense to do as ranked by this committee, right? When is the survey, you know when the survey data is going to be back?
I would dare to venture it should be out at sometime in, I want to say April, May.
Okay. So I ask that because if trail connectivity comes up at the top of the list, like top 2 or 3 again, then I do think you pull the dream card list out and say, let's potentially look at doing bonding. And because it's going to take forever to do all these trails.
Will the city council be reviewing the priorities on trails prior to the survey, or are they dependent upon us reprioritizing? Then when we're done and ready, will they look at it?
So I am scheduled to meet with them next Monday to talk about trails and the trail gaps. You know, the benefit, I guess, that we have is that, you know, we don't have anything scheduled for this year. So, you know, it'd be nice to take whatever information comes out of this meeting to say, you know, here's where we're at. And I may have Larry come to the meeting too, next Monday too.
We seem to react to people. We could all come.
It'll be at 6 o'clock, so you're more than welcome to come. So I'm just going to provide them an update, and if they've got questions, you know, I'm going to run through the process that we've used, you know, things that we're thinking, and what the direction. You know, if there's certain things tonight that you want to provide thoughts and direction on, that would be something I would share too.
2 to 4, and then a ranking within those. You could present that here's the big enchilada, and trails is really critical for the city. Would you look at bonding? If not, here's a pecking order. That's,
Yeah.
And here's how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
And you know, I think we've been given a task to come up with that. I don't know that it's good they're meeting about it, because then they can have the discussion exactly about that. Are we comfortable, you know, having this drag out for the next 30 years to get these done, or are there other alternatives that we want to, you know, based on the input that we've previously received from the public, move up, address in a different way, and that's, you know, the council's decision. But we can
Kind
put
of
that.
our Wasserman format. I mean, we were initially had the idea, and then it was looking like it was going to take 15 years to even
Right.
bring it to fruition. And so I think by pushing what we felt was important and getting the watershed to go along with us, we accomplished a big task that could have easily been put off for 10 or more years. So
when I looked at this, I was actually surprised, and I'm just going to go through and correct me if I misinterpreted what I heard, but like on number 1, Highway 7 trail, you said that's really a complicated, expensive proposition. Rolling Acres, when the road is improved, that'll probably be taken care of. Bavaria East and West are kind of shelved right now. Cochilla is going to be done. Lions Park is done. So right there, we got number 2, 5 and 6, going to be able to be checked off. Downtown West number 10 will probably be done when the 14 acres get developed. And Highway 5 Safe Crossing will be done. So almost half of these projects are you can almost take them off the list, because opportunities are going to present themselves. You don't take them off the list, but they're not a funding, not funding critical at this time, is my sense.
A couple of those might be, the downtown and the Highway 5 will require some city funds, because some of those will, not all of them. Your point's well taken, but I think there's 2 of those that
Okay.
will require funding from a share for the city.
Yep, generally speaking, all of them will. The city will have to fund them somehow, some way. Whether that's through the project itself, but we're still gonna have to pay for it.
Going to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, whether it could be in the development of it, or it could be in a trail fund.
Yep,
We would never let them take our trail money.
Okay, I have a question on the, as Victoria is growing to the south in the, what is this, Hunter's Mark, and I can't remember the name of the other one, whatever, that direction, are there trails? I know there were trails in the developments themselves. Is there a connecting artery going south that will match up with what's happening on County Road, what we're projecting a need on County Road 11, or?
no, there will be another gap
Okay,
because of hopscotch of development.
okay,
So we've got all of Lake Bridge that is coming in,
right,
but then there's a farm, and then the farm, and then next is development. So,
okay, was a trail done along 11 and those?
yes.
Okay, so we've got that. I think that's critically important as those developments happen, that we,
Yes.
get those in, so,
Everything that has been developed south of Lake Town, there's trail all along County Road 11.
okay.
Yeah, nobody lives out there, but there's trail.
Okay,
I looked at 11 too, and it was like, God, if they could only somehow get some trail just east of there a little bit that connect, it wouldn't even be our money. It would be Chaska's funds.
sure we could put a word in, I'm sure they're glad to contribute.
Because we look at these, if you look at these developments, right? I mean, we have trail in the neighborhoods, and then I'm not sure what that zone, what the property is, but if you had this network of blue, even east right off of 11, might actually be better than right on 11 from a safety standpoint.
Yeah, there's trail, like on Pioneer Trail, which is an extension of Marsh Lake Road. There's trail like 1 block over. So there's another farm that sits between the two.
And, we have no idea when any of those are ever going to be developed, but we had the same thing several years ago on that new Madeline Trails development in Brookmore, I think that's the name of it. And we didn't know if that ever was going to happen or how soon, and look at, a year and a half later, it's happening, so there's no way of knowing, but it's probably makes sense to wait for some of those developments too. Okay, any other comments before we try to come up with our list? No, Jeanette has put something out on the table there for consideration. We can maybe use that as a starting point. So your thoughts again were do what we could on Bavaria, and 11 and
7,
number
7, which is Kirk Locken.
to Lake, yeah, okay,
As the top three.
yeah. So thoughts on that?
I'm being anal again on the regional trail. What number is that, Ann? It says to the boat ramp. Is that a spur off of number 9?
So that is, so out here, we have paving.
Right
So
here.
the city, yes, right here.
Yes.
So it runs from, runs down here to the boat launch. Going, yeah.
Oh, so it's just from there.
So it's from the boat launch to Rolling Acres Road is that piece.
And what that would do is that would hook,
Pave.
that would be paved, and that would hook up by paved trail. You could go from downtown to the Arboretum entrance and beyond,
Now,
and people from that direction could go
this
to
way.
downtown Victoria on a paved trail.
So that,
It's gravel right now.
yeah, so that piece is, it would require participation with the county, the city, as far as the main payers of the project, but it would also be contingent on receiving federal funding or transportation dollars as part of that as well.
And then, again, that's just paving a gravel trail.
Yes,
Okay, that's why it's not shown in red right now. There's technically not a
Yes.
gap
right,
per se.
yes.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, there's a trail there that trail gets used a lot. I actually live on that trail,
I walk it a lot.
and it gets a lot of use. So there's
It'd be nice to have it paved just because if it's rainy or muddy or,
Right.
you know, you're
Well, maybe
sidestepping
next
around.
map, if we could just highlight the section to be paved, just, I understand now. I was just,
yeah. Oh, it's fine. You should have seen us work on this last time.
so on Jeanette's comment, I think three thoughts. On number 11, again, not knowing what kind of development is going to occur there. Potentially, I agree, it's high traffic, it'd be nice to have. The Bavaria thing makes sense, and it makes sense and to get as much done as we can, but then we've just created a trail to nowhere again. It just, we didn't accomplish it. We spent a lot of money and then stopped.
We get it to 18.
Yeah, so maybe clarify for me what we would actually pave.
It would be the southern piece,
Or from 82nd Street down?
yes.
So that hooks into that main, then it creates a loop almost there.
Yeah, and at some point in time in the very near future, there will be some sort of traffic control at 18 and Bavaria.
So it's about 25% of the,
Yeah, I think the estimate that we had for just that piece, and this is going off memory now, it was like 250-some thousand that, in last year's dollars estimate
okay.
to complete that.
To go from 82nd to 86th.
Roughly. There is some trail in 86, or there is some trail north of 86 as part of the development.
Right.
And I don't remember how many
Okay,
feet it was.
And if 82nd Street, if they pave and have to make it into a east-west route,
There would be trail placed along
right,
with that,
that would become a major
to,
artery
over to 41.
and possibly a roundabout there even.
I have another question on, I can find it here. on this, once you go down the trail, Lake Minnetonka Trail that we talked about that goes out to Lake Bridge, on the way,
Here, this one might help you.
yeah, I think that one was, I had it on the other one. Oh, my question was around, where's Kelzer Pond? That's here. Okay, it shows a trail, like where the,
Oh, this is Gray Lake. No, this is Gray Lake.
okay, this is Kelzer Pond area. So if you go from Kirklock and then we put that trail extend down the rail bed, and then it hooks up to an existing trail, is that trail paved?
Yes.
Okay,
The
the blue is paved. Okay, I thought that one,
In Watermark,
yeah, beyond Watermark.
yes,
Okay,
But the
not
connection to
the-
Lake Bridge is gravel.
right.
oh, that's what I meant.
Yes.
This
The
is gravel
connection.
right here.
So that would be nice to get that paved.
And
If-
that,
We did talk about that. We talked about that
this is
a year or so ago,
right here.
and it got ixnayed.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought, because I've rode my bike there, and I kind of went there, and oh, it's gravel, I turned around. Okay, so we've talked about that before. Was that where people didn't want it done, or why?
To save money to do other trails.
Oh, okay,
I've used that trail. If I would I'd rather double the trail with gravel than pave that and not have a new trail somewhere.
Okay.
From a connectivity perspective, but.
okay. All right, so, we have one proposal on the table. Other thoughts?
Should there be another trail in that group of three? Should there be four, or should it be a different three? Just,
If somebody has one they'd like to add. So Jeanette, when you're talking, do what we can on, I'll just review again, on Bavaria, do County Road 11, and do the extension of the Lake Minnetonka Trail. Those are the three that are out there right now. And the one's going to happen, the Cochia's going to happen already, we know that. And the only one that I would add to that would be the underpass, under 5.
Right, yeah. Yeah, the only reason I didn't was like if there's federal funding or whatever, but yeah, I mean, that really is contingent on that. But I think the city, the residents really want an underpass.
is that, would federal funding pay for it all?
No, there would have to be a local match.
Yeah, I would definitely include that.
So does anybody have any other one they'd want to add to a top priority list other than those 4 things?
And again, that's north of 86, it stops at 82nd and Bavaria is where it's at the bottom, it's the bottom half of the trail that we're,
Correct.
South.
or bottom quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
South on Bavaria.
This piece right here.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were going way up here.
yeah.
Wicked
I
is
didn't know
just
if you could
above
go all the way up
Right.
to 78.
Right.
One little section.
And I think if we make that a priority, we should also state in there that our preference would be that be all the way, but we understand there's obstacles that are keeping that from happening presently, but we shouldn't lose sight of that long term. So,
Because, yeah, if you do that, you still have to, I mean, if it stops at 82nd, you still got to cross Bavaria, right, to connect to a trail somewhere.
right. the thing that was the beauty of that is we had federal dollars or state grant dollars, whatever, state grant dollars, I guess, and it hooked up, it was part of the trail system that the communities in Carver County had kind of laid out. Are there any other places where trails aren't completed that are part of the kind of the regional trail system? And
On Bavaria and south, around 80, well, just north of 86th, there's, on the west side, there's a little trail shown connection.
just-
Is that part of Bavaria East project down here?
On
Or
the
west, I
east
mean?
or west? Oh,
West side.
On the west.
That was part of the development.
Yeah, there's just a short, that's my
There's-
development, there's just a short segment, you can do 78th Street, and you can actually walk up to 5, but there's nothing to connect from 78th to 82nd, which is the glitch. That's the gap.
Yeah, so this little guy down here.
Yeah.
Go to 86th on the west side.
that's just the west side. It's on the east side. There's trail already on the east side. We won't have to do the west side.
Yeah.
See?
It's already a trail on the east there.
So there's a trail on the east, but no. on the
Right.
west.
From 86 to just past
Supposed
Hill,
to be
to Hill Point.
Well, we identified the west side of Bavaria as another trail gap.
Right.
So that's in your
Yeah.
ranking.
That's
So that whole piece would be Bavaria West.
We spent a lot of time on Bavaria
Yeah.
and east and west.
But I guess we're talking about just that one little segment that's on the west.
No.
Right,
No, there's further north, there's,
right, yeah, way further north.
I'm just trying to figure out if that was an orphan or if that was part of Bavaria West.
Bavaria West.
Because
yes, Bavaria
Bavaria
West.
West, there's a little blue and then there's more.
Bavaria West, like I said,
That's all Bavaria,
right,
okay.
at 78th Street, you can,
I didn't want an
Walk down the trail.
orphan trail.
and you can walk up to the 5 from there, but,
Can't go the other direction.
right.
Yes, there's several little gaps along the way. So wherever development went in, that's where the trail section went in with hopes of at some time connecting those, but
And as that road gets busier, there probably will be a need for both sides, I would guess, potentially.
Very, very busy.
Okay, other thoughts?
And Lyons is done. Number 6 is done.
yes.
There we go.
I think I had one more after my question, if I can find it here. And that was trying to connect to our new park. And I know that it seems to me that there's a farm there on the corner, and maybe that's when you wait for development, because, and again, that may or may not happen anytime soon. But there's another way that I think the highway or County Road 11 that Jeanette, you pointed out, I think is important, because then that would connect, you could get to the park that way easily. Right now you can, Ann showed me how you can get there, but you have to go on some road and it's not easy to get there. I guess once you've done it a few times you could figure it out, but I think if we extend down 11, it creates a pretty easy connection into, you get down to by the school.
Yeah, going Red Fox.
Red Fox Road, you get down there, then it's kind of a straight shot back in there. So I think 11 is, I agree with that as a real important connector. I think that actually connects everything.
Yeah. It's just hard if you live over here and the park's here. It's
Yeah.
just, it's just so close, but it's not a good way, it's not.
And that's not a
There.
safe road to be on right
No.
there, but if that ever gets developed, and maybe that down the road, 5 years, you know, if it's not being developed by that time, maybe the committee needs to take another look at it. So do we have a consensus of those 4 things we talked about as top priorities?
And the fourth is,
Underpass.
A question on Highway 5, long-term planning for Highway 5 construction. Any acceleration on that, or is it, we still looking 20 years out, or?
Well, the first phase of 5 is in that area along Bavaria.
Yep.
In that area, that's 25, 24, 25, or
Is that
25,
Arboretum to
26.
Bavaria?
Yes.
Okay. So if we were to prioritize the safe cross there, and then Highway 5 gets reconstructed in that next stretch,
The underpass is in that first,
it is?
yes,
Oh, okay, great.
yes. So it goes to South Park Drive.
Okay, got it.
is that, there was a proposal that I read about developing property right behind the fire station. Is that getting close to reality, or? Because there's some
There's
land
still-
swaps and.
Yeah,
there's
there's
a-
still a long way to go for that to work.
Okay. Yeah, because that'd be an opportunity if they were to develop that property of digging a hole one night and kind of going, having an underpass.
Okay, other thoughts? So we have 4 in our top group. And everybody knows what they are, so I don't have to repeat them again.
Yep.
It's sort of like what we did with Wasserman, it's a go big or go home.
Right, right.
You know, it was like,
Right, here, these, I think, are what we present to the council would be, here are the 4 things that we think would make a major difference in connecting trails. And this is the approximate cost. And, you know, we can do it incrementally, one every 10 to 15 years, or we can try to figure out how to do them all in the next 5 years. Okay, and then the other things that are listed on the trail, or on the trail gaps, they're still trail gaps. We just leave them on the list. They just aren't, you know, we say as development happens, you know, they should be incorporated into the planning and development agreements to finish those portions. Okay.
So when Bavaria East was nixed for a while, you know, we then said, hey, let's go and look at numbers, Kirklocken and 43, and get some engineering estimates. In that very short period of time, we found out that, you know, the 43 was going to be, you know, twice the cost. So the thought is, should we see if we could put some dollars around 11, or ask to just get an engineering estimate? Because if you're telling the council, here's our bucket, well, how big is your bucket? And then so that's one thought. And it looks like, is there any land acquisition issues with 11?
There's potential.
Nothing's easy, right? And then the question is, do we want to try to rank within the group, the subgroup? To say, hey, if you're not going to give us a whole enchilada, you know, here's our preference and why.
I'm okay with that if we're able to get that done this evening, because they need it by next Monday.
I would say let's just give them the whole enchilada, and if they say.
I would say just give them the general,
Yeah.
what we've discussed here.
And-
And give them the big four, and along with the estimated costs and usefulness, I guess, and let them either say yes or no, or you can have some of it, but not all of it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way to go. And I think by saying, here's our top group, I think we'd be happy if any of those got done.
I think they would just appreciate it, having the list narrowed down enough, because they're not gonna look at, the council is gonna look at all this and go, oh, now what? We say we've already done a pretty thorough discussion, study. These are the things that we think are doable in the near future.
Okay, so what we'd be presenting the top ones. County Road 11, complete that. The Bavaria Road, as much as we're able to, but with emphasis on that first section. And then the extension of the Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail out to Lake Bridge. And then the underpass under 5 would be our top priorities. And then we'd also say the other trail gaps are listed here. We don't think that they're as high a priority, and there's opportunities to have developers complete those. So for now, we see those as something that should wait until that development happens, to be revisited in a few years to see where we are with that. But here are our top 4. Everybody okay with that?
Is there any benefit to also showing the ones that we think will likely occur, but note there will need to be some level of partnership on those, like Cochia? We talked about a couple others today, or is that just take away from?
I think that's a good point, but I think we can just keep that on like this chart that Ann already has here and just separate those, because she already has kind of the notes on there about
That makes sense.
about that. But I think we can just maybe mention, the development as a kind of highlight that in general.
Yep.
And that's, again, it basically comes down in the end, how do you pay for this?
Right.
But to Brian's point about, like, if you talked about Cochia, and then and on this list, they have this list, and if you mention Cochia is going to be developed, Lions Park is done, give them something to show, hey, we actually are making progress.
Yes.
That was the logic behind it. And then I think, you say we're making some progress here as a result of these things, and these are the other 4 we prioritize, and the benefit of doing those 4 have been discussed at length.
Because it gives them something to talk about, right? They've accomplished, and they're...
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is an accomplishment.
Yeah,
and we should take credit. The city should take credit for that. And it was identified, and it's happening because, as they went through the development, the planning commission sent it to us, and we suggested they needed trails there, and staff put trails in because they knew it was a priority. So.
Right.
And we pressured the developers to make sure that they do that.
Yeah, there's definitely take credit for what's been accomplished. Okay, anything else that we need to discuss about trail gaps?
The only thing is that, there's that Auburn Trail that's not on our top 4. So that may come up because it did just come to the council in the last few months. So just be prepared.
Yep.
Right. Well, I think all we need to say is 2-some million for 20 residences. Right. So.
Yep, and we did rank it, and it ranked fairly low. So.
It'll be on the list. It just be.
Yes, I did put it on the updated list.
And again, if money wasn't an object, they'd all be done. But
and I don't know if that cost has been communicated back to the city council and at all, as far as what the total number is that's been.
They will be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but when I look at this ranking, and I I live in Lake Bridge, so I question if I'm doing this because I live in Lake Bridge or if it's real, but I when we look at the actual rankings, like public support, I mean, of those 186 homes, you'd have 150 homes actually be willing to probably show up and say, hey, it's important to us.
I think one needs to take it into a broader perspective of public support, not just individual neighborhoods, because of course you're going to get that piece, but
Right, that's fair.
yeah, a little broader in terms of public support.
Maybe you tie it back then to, it gives us one more level of connectivity to the Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail.
Yes, and all of Watermark and Rhapsody and
Yes.
Ambergate and, I mean, that will get them there,
Right.
right to downtown.
Right.
And it's still, regardless of how the point showed up on this, it still ends up, it's one of our top 4.
Yeah.
So,
Fair.
yeah. And we might get asked, if the council looks at this and says, okay, we agree, we should do these. We can't do all of them, we can do 2 of them, which 2 should we do? Then I think we can have that further discussion to break it down further. Okay? Anything, are we good with those 4? All right, I think we have a consensus. I don't know that or do you want a motion?
I think a motion would be okay.
Okay, is there a motion to recommend to the council that the 4 trail connections priority are the 4 that we talked about?
So moved.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Thanks. I have one other thing on there. I think that it would be maybe helpful to share with the council. We talked about it a little bit, but emphasized the new roads and developments that we just talked about, and then raised the issue of bonding versus incremental connection. And that probably all comes with the same thing, but if we have kind of a consensus that those are 2 things we should highlight in the report to them, okay. We'll just add those. You don't need a motion on that, do you, Ann?
No.
Okay. All right, thanks. Good discussion. And thanks for this big map, really helps see, puts it all in perspective too.
And I do have individual ones that you can take with you and
Okay.
use them as you like.
Okay, next on the agenda are the tennis courts at Lions Park.
So the Lions Tennis Court actually has been on in the CIP for the last couple of years. It is 34 years old. It has some fairly significant cracking throughout the entire court. This is my hand. And so that crack is about 5 inches wide and a couple inches deep. So we have been obviously patching, and they've been resurfaced a number of times. Based on the age of these courts, my guess is that there was never real significant base material placed under them. There was likely no drain tile that would have helped with the water. We've got our lovely clay soils, so we have, in most instances, used sand and then crushed rock with drain tile to help get rid of that water underneath surfaces like this. So last year I got a quote. I was only actually able to get one quote for just trying to do some minor work on these the tennis courts. It pretty much was a kind of a mill and overlay, but not a complete one. And it came in fairly high, over our capital budget again. So this year, when I started looking at this project, I really wanted to, it needs something done. And so I wanted to get an estimate for really doing it right. And then also doing it with a mill and overlay. That basically what that is they would crunch up all this material, add a few more layers of rock to the project. It wouldn't have drain tile, wouldn't have sand. But it probably would work for a number of years. Regardless, maintenance needs to be done on these things. Usually they need some minor crack filling work and some painting, and that's usually done 8 to 9 years over the course of time. But they will need that regardless of the type of surface that we end up doing. But so again, I did the total reconstruction. Well, we've got 2 courts there existing today, and my proposal is to just put 1 court back in to save on costs of construction, to save on eventual maintenance of this facility. And we have courts at Holy Family that the community is allowed to use. So that, in essence, is my proposal. The unfortunate part is the cost of these. So for the total reconstruction, that takes everything out. Everything comes out. Excavation occurs. New sand goes in. New rock goes in. New drain tile. New pavement. New fencing. So it's really a start from scratch construction. And the low quote came in for that at about $124,450. And then the mill and overlay, which crunches up the existing material now, came in at $98,000. So, in looking at these, I certainly am aware that they're over, the project is over budget by a significant amount. Either way we go, the other option would be to remove the courts and don't do anything, and you'd probably still be looking at $50,000 just to remove all of the material and dispose of it, which certainly is an option if you guys wanted to go that direction. I think the tennis court does get some use, and if we're going to put one back in, I would strongly recommend doing it the right way and doing a complete reconstruction. And then with all the development that is going on, I think we're going to be fine in the long run and short run with spending an extra $40,000 doing these. We're getting money coming in through developments. Hopefully the pickleball courts won't come in at $500,000. So we'll, hopefully be able to save something there. So, again, it's certainly, there's a couple different options, and my recommendation is just to do it right and get it done, and it'll outlast all of us, probably your kids and grandkids. So,
So I agree. The question is, over, say, a 15-year period, would the upkeep of the mill and overlay, be half of that difference? Because right now you're looking at $26,000 more for the reconstruction. Are we actually saving money over the next 10, 20 years by doing the reconstruction versus the maintenance that's gonna be required in the mill and overlay.
Yeah, my fear with the mill and overlay is that there's no sand going in and there's no drain tile going in with it.
So our first record winter, we popped new
I mean,
cracks.
you see what happens with anything that is blacktop out there, or
Yeah.
it just, with the thaw and freeze cycle is really hard on them.
That makes sense.
So I would dare to venture yes, but I can't predict what that would be.
And the proximity is really close to the playground. Are you going to think about reorienting? If you go down to one court, are you going to keep it as close to the playground today as it is, or are you going to move it a little bit and reorient?
We'll move it in the field.
Okay.
And try to get the best site for drainage.
Makes sense.
So then the water can shed off the entire court.
Okay.
One of the challenges that we do have with the site, we have a gas pipeline that runs right underneath it. So I'm going to be needing to work with them to try to get this project done. So that will be the one.
Will the new court sit on the footprint of the old court, or will it be?
Within that dimension? It has to go. It generally should go in a north south direction, so the sun doesn't east-west affect the players. So it should go in a north-south, so it'll be somewhere within that general area.
Okay, other questions for Ann? I know I'm in support of doing it right.
Yeah.
If we're gonna do it, it's be a waste of money to do it the other way in my estimation, so. Somebody want to make a motion?
I will make the motion that we do the, there it is. Thank you. Recommend that the city council approve the Lions tennis court rebuild option and utilize funds from the park fund to cover the additional $44,450 for the low quote submitted by,
Lee Hall.
Play Hall, blacktopping in the amount of $124,450.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Brian. Any further discussion?
So, and that 44,000, that's what, it's over the budgeted amount?
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the Emerald Ash Borer report.
So we are just completed year 2, 2021 of the Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan that traded trees in parks and along boulevards. And so last year on public property, we treated 324 trees. And then on private property, a total of 101 trees were treated for a total of 425 trees that were protected from the EAB. When you look at the total inches at diameter breast height, we treated over 5,600 inches, and the average trees that were treated were about 13.4 inches. You know, I think the one of the big things that I think people may not understand, but the benefits that the trees staying that they do. We roughly intercepted about 662,000 gallons of stormwater from going right into our lakes and streams. And then also the CO2 that was avoided, over 302,000 pounds of CO2 that was one avoided out into the real world. So one one of the things that I thought was interesting, the part of the program that we have with Rainbow Tree Care also allows residents to participate in treating their private trees at a discounted rate. And you can kind of see here, the new customers this year were great. My concern becomes the 2019 customers that didn't return for a second injection in 21. And the reason that I say that is the city just found out from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture that EAB was found on the east end of Victoria, and it was reported by the Arboretum. So one of the good things is when we started the program, we treated, generally speaking, all of our boulevard trees and all of our park trees. So those trees that are out on private property and some of those unfortunately large outlots that the city has, it's certainly likely that we will see an infestation in those areas. But hopefully we have done everything we can do to save the park and boulevard trees that are out. So I would certainly encourage folks, if they've got especially some high quality ash trees on their property, to give Rainbow Tree a call, so we can, you can consider injecting your trees to save them, because they do provide a lot of benefits rather than firewood. So we will be working on a campaign to get more information out to residents, particularly now that it's been found here. We'll be sending out postcards again to all residents in the community, and really trying to do a campaign on, getting people to understand the benefits of treatment and, other options that they have out there. So with that, that is kind of my very fast update on EEB. We'll be going into year 3, so we'll be starting to treat those trees that we injected in 2019. So
Do it every 2 years?
yes, yep.
Okay, any other questions for Ann on that? Okay, next item is the report on the rec center.
So we put together a smaller annual report with tried to make it a little bit easier to read and not so wordy. Obviously 2021 continued to be a COVID influenced a lot of the things that we did, especially early on in the year. It influenced everything we did, projects, programs, and participation. Several of the highlights that I wanted to touch on, and you guys were key contributors in most of these. But Wasserman Lake, we finished up that and opened the park up, and it received rave reviews by those that have been there. This year we are actually doing some reservations, and we're getting more and more shelter reservations as the summer goes. We're also trying to do some programs out there this year, and hopefully we'll get a lot of folks visiting the site. Obviously, the pickleball continued to gain in popularity, and the show of support to begin working on our outdoor courts that we're doing this year. We did slip a little bit in our memberships, especially after closing, and with some of our older adult members, people stayed away. And we put a lot of safety protocols in place. But it was certainly a challenging year. But again, fall and winter, we finally started to recoup some of those members, and we gained a lot of younger adults. So, if there was a bright spot in it, it came in the fall and winter. We purchased the new Civic Rec software and implemented that in October. We're still learning that system. Today actually was the first day of registration for summer programs. So of course there's, always things that we learn every time one of those comes along. So again, year 2 of EAB was completed. We did get back to community gardens and the Lions Pavilion rentals, and special events resumed, with concerts in the park, some of our larger recreation special events. And we also then also resumed some of our rec programs with safety precautions, limited the number of people, still had some masks on this summer. But overall, I think we came out of it okay, and we certainly learned a lot of lessons with the COVID-19, and hopefully we're moving on to the other side of it. But the entire annual report is available to you, and if you've got any questions, I'd be happy to answer those at this time. But thank you all for helping with a lot of these projects and programs. It certainly has helped a lot. So,
Okay, any questions for Ann?
And the only thing I was going to ask, when you talk about special events, is the city going to do like a waste yard collection event?
I have heard that they are going to do that. I don't know the date.
Okay. And the other thing I would suggest, and this probably should have been in suggestions, was a shredding event. I mean, if they could coordinate the two, that we're clearing out our taxes, we're clearing out our yards, we want to.
Well, and so, yeah, there's going to be a senior expo at Lions Pavilion in May. And so I do have a meeting, so I can kind of throw in especially the shredding truck and see if there's an opportunity there for that event. So
What kind of expo?
a senior expo.
What are we supposed to do there?
I'll know more after tomorrow. I will know more after tomorrow.
Okay. Last item is the report on the rec center for last month. That's just a report in your packet. I don't know if you had anything to add to that, Ann.
I do not, right at this point in time.
Okay, anybody have any questions about that? Okay, if not, a motion would be...
I do have one other thing that I would like to note, if I can pull it up here. Come on, get over here. We lost in early March one of our longtime people that worked at the recreation center at the front desk, Roseanne Harker. She was one of the very first employees that worked at the rec center starting back in 2003, and she was still working up right before COVID, or right to COVID, and when we shut down, she made the decision not to come back. She passed away early March. 17 years at working at the rec center. Wonderful, wonderful person, and we will miss her dearly. So we had hoped to do a retirement party for her when COVID was over, and we've kind of made plans now to instead plant a tree in her memory at the recreation center sometime this summer. So Roseanne Harker, a wonderful, wonderful person, and she'll be dearly missed. So I just wanted to share that with you guys.
She was a delight. She was a delight.
I was thinking of her just a couple of weeks ago.
Condolences to her family.
Yes, Richard, she had, if you read her obituary at all, she went a lot of places. She'd been married to Richard for, I think, 64 years or something, and had lots of children and grandchildren. So, yeah. she was all over the place from living in, which I didn't even know all the places that she had lived. So it was very interesting reading the obituary. So.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank everybody for the discussion we had tonight. I think we accomplished a lot. And also like to thank Ann for helping us out and getting us big maps that make things clear. And thanks also to committee members for the time that you spent before the meeting so we could get something done at the meeting. So thanks much. A motion's in order for us to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed, same sign. Meeting's over.